Contact Report 672 Translation, translated with DeepL.com. Disclaimer: this is an unofficial translation. Source:
Plejadisch-plejarische Kontaktberichte.
Blog 15. Date of original translation Sunday, 5th of May 2019. English translation.
Hello, dear friend. Greetings, Edward.
Ah, I come. If I had not heard your greeting now, then I would have stayed at the photocopier. Then you would probably have looked for me over there, dear friend, but be welcome and greeted. It's a little unusual that you're coming today because I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow.
No, I wouldn't have looked over there for you because I looked where you were first. The reason why I am coming here now is that Florina, Injana and I will meet in 45 minutes, because we have an important job to do together and also something to prepare. After that I can only stay here until shortly before midnight, after which I have to leave, after which we can meet again tomorrow and talk again. When the time comes after, I'll call you.
Of course you can, but you have to keep in mind that I have to do the Friday shopping tour in the morning hours and also take care of postal and bank matters, because since Silvano went his last way on Earth, I don't only have to do the Tuesday afternoon shopping tour, but also the one on Friday morning.
I know that, so there won't be a problem because, depending on how Injana, Florina and I finish our work, I won't come back until the afternoon or later in the evening.
Tomorrow in the evening I'll be away as well, from 1800 to about 2100 or 2130. Because we have our obligatory Aquarian food in the stern and fish engine.
I know that, so there's no problem.
Then everything's no problem. Then I'd like to ask you if you could clarify everything with regard to the list of conspiracy theories I copied from Wikipedia on the internet, which you also photographed.
This is one of the jobs that Florina, Injana and I want to do from midnight and tomorrow because we have been busy elsewhere.
Oh, I didn't know that. But I want to thank you for wanting to work through the list, because it would be interesting for us in the core group, later probably also for the readership of the Contact Talk blocks, what kind of conspiracy theories all the conspiracy theories are, and what only alleged conspiracy theories are. At least some conspiracy theories are only fake conspiracy theories that were specially conceived and invented to conceal and ridicule the effective truth, because it could have unpleasant effects.
I also think that it would be interesting for the group members and other readers of the Contact Conversations. In addition, I would like to explain right now that the probably most famous conspiracy theory in the world, namely with regard to you, me and our common contacts, exists, and this is because our contacts are branded in a very negative, lying and slanderous way by antagonists, know-it-alls, diffamers, discreditors, humiliators, as well as by malicious, envious and vindictive negators as lies, deception, charlatanism and fraud to make themselves important. Various people with very bad character may want to quench their revenge addiction, while others may spread their lies and slander profitably with books and writings as well as through public media in order to earn a living. This applies especially to certain mystic journal producers and to sensational journalists who lyingly distort and falsify the effective facts and thus also create slander. It is common for them to rely on hostile people in their lying statements and allegations, or by simply inventing interviews with you and statements that you are supposed to have made, but which they have fraudulently lied about. Also, all machinations of this kind correspond to truth infiltrations and effective conspiracies against you, us and our common contacts, whereby then the population, which regards these conspiracies as truth, consumes these in the form of a conspiracy theory and regards them as given. This form of conspiracy theory, however, corresponds to a completely different form than those conspiracy theories which are used to spread given machinations etc. in relation to not true, but invented and imagined events etc., which pretend actions and modes of action etc. which are not given to those who believe in conspiracy theory and therefore correspond neither to reality nor to the truth, and which follow them by pretending events which correspond to a pure illusion. Thus, if lies and slander are thus set up in this way in the form of conspiracy theories, they are done in such a way that the effective facts in relation to events and actions, etc., are denied and transformed into other, untrue and illusory events, facts and actions, so that something completely different, evil, underhanded, negative and bad results from them, which really is supposed to have been committed in the background in a different way than is portrayed externally. In the case of our contacts, on the other hand, conspiracy theory has from the very beginning, and will continue to be, formed in such a way that, because no other actions and events etc. can be cited in the background that would expose anything other than reality and truth, a slanderous conspiracy lie has been circulated around the world, namely that the reality and truth of our contacts are lies and deceit, charlatanry and fraud.
I can understand what you're saying. In the actual sense, I think, a conspiracy theory is an attempt to give a revealing event, happening, state or development etc. a completely different background in reality, to assume and assert pathologically, than that which is visible to the outside. Hence, in a conspiracy theory, it is morbidly believed that the true background to the occurrence of the event, condition or development is completely different from everything else. So the conspiracy theory claims that the truth is not told, but that it is concealed, because in reality something completely different is given or has happened than exactly what is superficially stated. Consequently, what is superficial is the untruth and thus corresponds to a lie and conspiracy. The focus is on pathologically illusory, profoundly targeted, conspiratorial work, which is usually intended to pursue an illegal or illegitimate purpose. A conspiracy theory is therefore a pathologically conditioned assumption and idea that a conspiracy or conspiracy enterprise is the starting point of something that is misrepresented externally and appears different than it really is.
You are saying what I also wanted to explain, namely that conspiracy theories are of pathological origin, to which it is also quite clear to say that this pathological thinking of such imaginations and illusions can only occur in people with very poor education and also lacking intelligence.
You mean a lack of education?
On the one hand, but on the other hand also the general education, but especially the formation of understanding and reason, through which alone reality and its truth can be perceived in a real way.
Aha, that has to be said. Of course, because that sheds a different light on the matter and also explains the lack of intelligence behind conspiracy theories, as your father Svath already explained to me. If intelligence is lacking, then there is also a lack of understanding and reason, and thus especially of logical thinking, logical combination, and real perception and recognition of effective reality and its truth. In my opinion, however, this also means that man's fantasizing, if he suffers from these deficiency symptoms, is no longer healthy, but sick or pathologically suffering, and he is therefore not capable of real fantasizing, but only of pathological illusion, which accordingly leads to pathological assumptions, illusions and ideas. In this way, unclear sensory impressions or false external perceptions arise, because only a surface sensitivity is given, through which the perceptions are perceived only superficially and thus only in certain individual parts or factors, but not the whole. Therefore, on the one hand, false interpretations of actual sensory perceptions arise, which have nothing to do with hallucinations, but with a lack of understanding, reason and intelligence as well as of clear, conscious perception. This is also the reason why several people who observe or perceive one and the same thing individually have different recipes or see and judge the result of information acquisition differently than others who have observed the same event or phenomenon. And in this way, of course, all people who are similar in this respect are ill in the same hospital, so that they very easily and thoughtlessly become believers of conspiracy theorists and their conspiracy theories as well as believers of religions and sects. It cannot be otherwise, for a man with a normal, healthy mind and just as much reason, with the necessary education and with deficiency-free intelligence cannot simply be a believer, a conspiracy theory or a religious or sectarian faith. Nor can such a person simply fall prey to a conviction which affects him, because through his mind, his reason and intelligence he thoroughly explores and fathoms everything and everyone in himself until he has recognized the definitive reality and its truth and created an absolute certainty out of it, whereby he can never fall prey to faith.
That's undoubtedly how you explain it. But now, Edward, dear friend, time has passed and I must go. Tomorrow I'll call you back when the time comes. Then goodbye until then.
Take care, and goodbye.
Continuation of the Kontaktkonversation. Friday, 3. Februar 2017, 14:21.
You are here very quickly, Pat R., dear friend, but be welcome and greeted. But sorry, it somehow seems to me as if something moves you. You refrain from saying something, it seems to me.
Sorry, I'm a little absent-minded, but that'll all go away. But it's always amazing how fast you perceive my movements, but also how fast you perceive people's movements.
It is simply my way of approaching my fellow human beings in an empathetic way in order to be able to perceive what is going on in them on the one hand, so that I can adjust to them accordingly on the other. However, I do not penetrate into the thoughts of my fellow human beings, but only into their feelings, which tell me the positive or negative nature of their thoughts. So I do not read minds, because these are purely private in nature for every human being, and they must always remain so.
It doesn't matter to you whether they are honest or dishonest with you, with others, or with themselves, because you don't treat them according to their honesty or dishonesty, but simply as people in an affectionate conscience because you like them.
Yes, that's right, and in this way I don't play anything for them either, because I can talk to them in any way that the situation requires. So I can talk normally and calmly and explain something, but if I have to, I can get loud or even very loud. I must also say that empathy is very important for me, because through this I have created the willingness and ability to recognize and understand certain feelings, thought forms, emotions, motives and personality traits of another person. In this way I can react appropriately to other people's feelings, such as compassionate grief, pain, inner misery, inner distress, helplessness and excitement, etc. etc. But this requires my own self-perception, which I have to practice over and over again, because only by being completely open to my own feelings and emotions can I also interpret the feelings and emotions of my fellow human beings. Empathy is for me the most important key to understanding the people who seek help and advice from me. The strength and importance of empathy is particularly evident when there are profound conflict situations, for it is particularly important to be able to grasp and understand fundamentally what drives one's fellow human beings into Devil's Kitchen. It is only through this grasping, understanding and knowledge that it is possible to be helpful and give advice. Unfortunately, however, it is very often the case that neither help nor advice is accepted, but simply continued negating in the old style. The other thing is that you have to make a good face to the bad game and you must not let anything show when you lie black as fire, so there is nothing left to do but let the lying person believe that the lying will not be noticed. Unfortunately, this happens very often, but I learned from the training of your father's faith as a boy not to let it show me that I recognize it when I am lied to.
Then how do you behave towards the person who lies to you?
For me he remains a person like any other who has good and bad sides, who is honest as well as bad and makes mistakes, so I do not condemn him, but only say what I find out about him and his actions and behavior in good and bad, etc. So it also says that if someone harms me, lies to me, maliciously me and slanders me, that I can probably say that and will say it about his person, but that I am always ready to continue or to go back with him and to have a reasonable relationship if he wants to, with or without excuse. And this is also the case when a fellow man maliciously denigrates and slandered me, because my mission taught me this.
Actually, I've always known everything you say very well, but it's still interesting to hear everything in your own words. But now, dear friend A.
Yes, I know, I have talked a lot again, because we should now turn to the things with the conspiracy theories.
That's what I was thinking about, but we'll do that later when I come here again the following night, because now something else is up ahead, namely what you already noticed when I came here, namely that something moves me that I suppress.
Aha, the oppressed is pressing more now, my friend?
You can say that because it's time we left now.
I don't see what you mean. Where should we go?
It is time for me to open the gate because we have to use it now and go through it because we are expected in a few minutes.
Where is it?
I want to tell you this, but you should not call up or write down anything about all this later, what you will experience during the next 2.5 hours and what will be spoken, because the whole thing should only serve your joy and your rest and make today, when you have turned 80 years old in the late morning hours, a unique experience for you. As we walk through the gate, you will be able to greet everyone you have met during our contact time. Everyone wants to talk to you and be with you for the next 2.5 hours.
Well, if you say so, but I'm just in my house latches. This is a bit inconvenient, I think, because
This is not a problem, because at the meeting place, Quetzal's log cabins, there is early sunny summer weather.
Wow. Then we're going to error. You can look for me here for a long time. Such a dimensional gate is simply fabulous. Just one step through, and you are 500 light years away from Earth on another world and in another dimension.
Come now, Edward, my friend, because everyone is waiting for us to come. After 2.5 hours I will let you step back through the gate again, but then visit you again when you will be back from your group meal in Fischingen and I will call you. But now, dear friend, come A.
Continuation of the Kontaktkonversation, Friday, 3. Februar 2017, 21:26.
Hello, Edward, my dear friend.
Pat you're obviously waiting, but greetings and welcome, as usual.
Thank you, and now, dear friend, may I ask what this afternoon has brought you?
I never expected anything like this, and so your surprise was perfect, dear friend. Really, you can be sure today that I won't be losing my mind. On the one hand, the experience with all 48 people, together with you, whom I got to know during the contact time with you Pledgeron, and on the other hand the joy to get to know Yanarara. In this way the whole thing was something so impressive and joyful that I have never experienced during my whole life. Apparently I only had to live to be 80 years old.
This has been planned for a long time, but the whole thing should remain your purely personal experience and your deep joy, which is why you should not talk about it, but should only go through it in joy. Of course, your working space was too small for the implementation of our plan, which is why we chose the Quetzal area and log cabins for the meeting and for the surprise.
And you succeeded in this surprise, even more so, because it was for me a reunion with everyone, which I never even dreamed of, to have a hope that I, except you, Quetzal, Injana, Floina and Zafanat Punch, would see one or the other again and could talk to them again.
It was a great pleasure for all of us to be able to talk to you again and spend some time together. But now, Edward, my friend, it is to be that we turn to what I have come here again for, namely that we now turn to the conspiracy theories as I mentioned this afternoon. If you like, we can talk about your impressions of era afterwards.
Thank you. I'd like to do that, because there's a lot going on inside of me.
Which I can understand very well, but now I want to lead the list you copied from Wikipedia, starting with the oldest, to the newest, officially known conspiracy theory listed there. Those that effectively correspond only to illusionary theories, I will simply call false, while one thing, however, is to be called true and to be explained, which corresponds to the circumstances. The following therefore applies to the conspiracy theories listed.
List of conspiracy theories, from Wikipedia https://t.wikipedia.org/wiki-liste-of-die conspiracy-theories. This list lists conspiracy theories of the last centuries. It contains confirmed and refuted, but also still unclear theories that deal with religious, political, cultural or FODI-cultural motivated conspiracies. It makes no claim to completeness.
12th century.
Ritual murder legend. In 1144 it was first claimed that Jews had kidnapped a Christian child in order to murder him in a secret ritual on Passover.
This one is false. 14th century.
Well, poisoning, especially during the Great Plague epidemics in the 14th century, social fringe groups, mostly Jews, were accused of having caused the epidemic by poisoning public wells in order to destroy Christianity.
This one is false. 15th century.
Theology of which is the popular belief that natural catastrophes and diseases were in reality caused by damaged wizards, witches, was taken up by theologians in the 15th century and developed into the idea of a secret witch sect in union with the devil, which resulted in centuries of persecution of alleged witches.
This one is false. 16th century.
Exeter conspiracy. King Henry VIII was supposed to be murdered to reverse the Reformation.
This one is false. 17th century.
Papist conspiracy. Catholics allegedly wanted to murder King Charles II.
This one is false. 17th/18th century.
Man with the iron mask. Person from the environment of King Louis XIV.
This one is true.
The mysterious prisoner was the twin brother of the Sun King, Louis XIV, who was born secretly in 1643 and died in 1703.
19th century.
Dark Countess. The mysterious inhabitants of Villechausen Castle are said to have been the daughter of the executed French King Louis XVI.
This one is false.
Flat Earth Society thesis. The thesis of the Flat Earth Society still propagates today that Earth is a disk.
This one is false.
Caspar Hauser rumor. The foundling Caspar Hauser was the hereditary prince of the Grand Duchy of Baden, born in 1812.
This one is false.
World Jewry. Jews allegedly want to seize world domination.
This one is false.
Baha'i conspiracy. As Zionists or spies, Baha'i want to destroy either the state of Iran or the entire Islam.
This one is false.
Conspiracy theories around Jack the Ripper. The search for the real identity of Jack the Ripper left speculations open. For example, he was a secret child of Queen Victoria.
This one is false.
Jack the Ripper was a man named Thomas Neil Cream, a trained physician who was arrested, accused, sentenced to death and hanged in 1892 after several murders. At the same time with him a second man was doing his mischief in the same way, who came from the royal house of Queen Victoria, but was never caught, because he ended his murder again. Taxal fraud. Alleged eyewitnesses reported satanic rites of Freemasons.
This one is false.
Know Nothing Party rumors. Catholic immigration had served the Pope to undermine the values of the United States so that a papal army could land in America and found a new Vatican in Cincinnati.
This one is false.
20th century.
Agent theory. Adolf Hitler's actions had been guided by the economy.
This one is false.
AIDS denial. Allegedly there is no causal connection between high viruses and the immunodeficiency disease AIDS.
This one is false.
AIDS from the U.S. laboratory. HIV is said to have been developed by the USA and to have been exposed or escaped.
This one is false.
AIDS goes back to the monkey species green monkeys, which were abused by irresponsible and abnormal people through sodomistic actions, whereby the transmission of the immunodeficiency epidemic to terrestrial humans was made possible. The epidemic existed with the green monkeys, however, already 11,000 years ago on Earth, whereby the epidemic was transferred in later millenniums to the chimpanzee subspecies Pantroglodytes troglodytes. Note Central African chimpanzee, Amero. The governments of Canada, the United States and Mexico are allegedly planning a North American monetary union.
This one is false.
Area 51. The institution deals with or communicates with extraterrestrial life forms.
This one is false.
Medical conspiracy. Doctors of the Soviet Union allegedly planned attacks on high-ranking representatives of their country. See also Rootless Cosmopolitan.
This one is false.
Assassination attempt on Martin Luther King. The assassination attempt on Martin Luther King had been carried out or planned by the U.S. government.
This one is false.
Gang of Nijvel conspiracy. The attacks carried out by the Gang of Nijvel were a preemptive strike against communism in Western Europe.
This one is false.
Barshal affair. Former Prime Minister U. Barshal was found dead after having conducted an unusually tough election campaign against his competitor.
This one is true.
U. Barshal was murdered for political and dubious reasons, but for security reasons details of a may not be given. Bilderberg Conference. The participants of the Bilderberg Conference are allegedly planning a world dictatorship or are masterminds of events steeped in history, such as the Iraq War.
This one is false.
The Bilderberg Conferences are not aimed at a world dictatorship, but at economic, political, military and secret service planning and machinations that are absolutely informal and are described as private and kept as secret as possible. The meetings bring together influential people from business, the military, politics, the media, universities, the high nobility, secret services and Christian churches. The conferences exchange ideas on current political, economic and social issues, and take decisions on political, military, secret service, economic and Christian religious forms of leadership, etc., some of which are detrimental to the populations of the countries concerned, but also to the populations and the economy of the countries concerned. The conference was launched in May 1954 at the invitation of Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands. At that time the conference was held in his own Hotel de Bilderberg in Oosterbeek in the Netherlands, after which the name Bilderberg was adopted for these conferences. The original and first reason for the first meeting was based on the fear that Western Europe and North America would work far too little together, as was urgently needed. At least this was the opinion at that time, which has apparently been preserved until today, and secret decisions have been thought up and taken again and again, which among other things are directed against Russia. And since everything is secret, the Bilderbergers are of course also entwined with various conspiracy theories. Chemtrails. Vapor trails are said to contain chemicals that affect the population.
This one is false.
Condensation trails are visible long white streaks, especially those formed in the wake of aircraft by water vapor and other exhaust gases, which form particularly behind high-flying jet aircraft when the humidity in the aircraft exhaust gases condenses. These long-strip clouds or vapor trails have nothing to do with the conspiracy theory of chemtrails, also known as chemical trails, poison strips or poison clouds, which are supposed to correspond to the deliberate release of chemicals into the atmosphere. According to the nonsensical conspiracy theory, airplanes are supposed to spray chemicals on behalf of states in order to change the weather and climate, poison people or otherwise influence world affairs, which, however, corresponds to nothing but complete nonsense. Chronology criticism. Certain sections of historiography or chronology had been erroneously or deliberately falsified.
This one is false.
Chronovisor. The Vatican is or was allegedly in possession of a time machine.
This one is false.
Dagger shooting legend. The defeat of the German military in the First World War was caused by opposition civilians.
This one is false.
Estonia conspiracy. The sinking of the Estonia was the result of an assassination.
This one is false.
Rumor from Orleans. In the French city of Orleans, 28 young women were allegedly kidnapped and forced into prostitution.
This one is false.
Greater Israel conspiracy. According to doctrine, Israel plans to extend Jewish sovereignty to the entire area between the Mediterranean and the Jordan River.
This one is false.
GSG-9 use in Bad Kleinen. The GSG-9 mission in Bad Kleinen, in which the RAF terrorist Wolfgang Grams was killed, gave rise to numerous conspiracy theories.
This one is false.
All conspiracy theories in this regard have no truth at all. HARP conspiracy. The U.S.-American research program HARP is said to have been used for thought manipulation or artificially inducing natural disasters.
This one is false.
But true is, HARP can cause many harmful effects on living beings through vibrations, cause electromagnetic and weather-related disturbances, bring military benefits in various forms, as well as cause negative atmospheric influences, but in absolutely no way mind manipulation. With HARP, the sky is bombarded with energy rays through the large antenna system. These are hurled back by the ionosphere as electric waves of extremely low frequency, ELF, whereby these waves can then be transformed into an insidious weapon, which is, however, officially denied. Denial of the Holocaust. The Holocaust of the National Socialists never existed.
This one is false.
Itavia Flight 870 conspiracy. The plane was shot down by French or U.S. aircraft. All occupants died. The unknown attackers allegedly assumed that the plane was a Muammar al-Gaddafi aircraft.
This one is false.
Jomanta theory. The Russian mountain Jomanta is said to house a gigantic underground complex that is used for military purposes.
This one is false.
Assassination attempt on John F. Kennedy. The assassination attempt is not the work of a single perpetrator, but of a conspiracy, as whose masterminds the Mafia, the CIA or Fidel Castro are postulated depending upon.
This one is true.
Harvey Oswald, who was under the influence of several groups, was not the direct assassin but only one of 3 other men who were controlled by an interest group involving the CIA, the FBI, the Mafia, a pro-Cuban group, oil barons and the military-industrial complex. Alternative theories to Korean Airlines Flight 007. An aircraft accidentally shot down by the Soviet Union was officially classified as threatening. Theories say that Soviet air security should be tested. Other conjectures suggest that survivors of the accident are imprisoned.
This one is false.
Leningrad affair. Supporters of the Leningrad Party organization of the CPSU should allegedly be involved in criminal machinations.
This one is false.
Invented Middle Ages. Larger periods of medieval history were invented.
This one is false.
Death of John Paul I. John Paul I was poisoned because he probably wanted to uncover internal machinations of the Vatican.
This one is true.
116 John Paul I died by poison, which stopped the heart from working, giving the impression of a heart failure. He was murdered because he shocked the noble rule of the Vatican, and his behavior and way of life in the Vatican provoked an impulse. Lusitania conspiracy. The sinking of the ship by a German submarine is said to have been deliberately brought about in order to stir up displeasure against Germany among the U.S. population.
This one is false.
Majestic 12 Committee. The U.S. Secret Committee deals with the activities of UFOs and aliens.
This one is false.
Men in Black. Secret U.S. government officials dressed in black ensure that mysterious sightings do not give rise to witness testimony.
This one is false.
Men in Black have nothing to do with U.S. government officials, because that is pure fantasy, as opposed to the black men who belonged to a group intent on destroying the Figu mission, up to and including assassinations. Conspiracy theories on the moon landing. The moon landings between 1969 and 1972 by NASA allegedly never took place and were only faked.
This one is false.
Apart from the alleged first moon landing of Apollo 11 in 1969, which was fraudulently staged on Earth as a real moon landing and in the execution of which the participants participated under hypnosis and were deceived, all other moon flights and moon landings actually took place. The first and fraudulent alleged lunar expedition, broadcast worldwide by television, took place for political reasons, namely to put Russia at a disadvantage in relation to the USA with regard to space technology and so-called space travel. Death of Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe is said to have been killed by a U.S. Secret Service because she had an affair with John F. Kennedy.
This one is false.
Marilyn Monroe was murdered by the Monroe psychiatrist and therapist Dr. Ralph Greenson with an injection of chloral hydrate into the anus on the night of 4 August 5, 1962 on behalf of the two brothers John Fitzgerald and Robert Kennedy, which is why no puncture wound was found anywhere on the body. Montauk Project. In the Montauk Project, the U.S. military tried to steer or influence the thoughts of civilians between 1970 and 1990.
This one is false.
Afterlife of Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley did not die in 1977, but lived on under exclusion of the public.
This one is false.
New World Order. Secret societies allegedly try to seize world domination.
This one is false.
In modern times from 1844 there was no known or unknown organization, apart from the USA and Hitler, which tried to seize world domination. Even today, there is no state and no secret or known organization, apart from the USA, that claims world domination. Oklahoma connection. The bomb attack on the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City was supported by Islamists.
This one is false.
Paul is dead. Paul McCartney of the Beatles died in 1966 and was then replaced by a doppelganger.
This one is false.
Attack on Pearl Harbor. The U.S. government or the U.S. military allegedly knew of the imminent attack on Pearl Harbor, but did nothing to be able to cite a reason for the war in public.
This one is false.
Philadelphia experiment. A U.S. military experiment allegedly led to the disappearance of a warship and its teleportation to another location.
This one is false.
There has never been such an experiment in the USA or anywhere else on Earth. A book writer named Berlitz wrote a fantastic story only according to the fraudulent claims of a man named Cal Allen. Protocols of the Wise Men of Zion. The protocols pretend to be secret documents of Jewish world conspirators.
This one is false.
Coup against the Mossad government. The coup against the Iranian government of Mossad was long considered a conspiracy theory until it was admitted by the U.S. government in 2013. Operation Ajax.
This one is true.
Reichsflugzeug. The Third Reich had been in possession of a futuristic aircraft.
This one is true.
The Nazi Empire developed disc aircraft, which were about 2,000 kilometers per hour fast and reached over 12,500 meters altitude. However, these flying discs were single-wing aircraft, which were of a completely different type than normal wing aircraft. Reich Citizens Movement. The German Reich continues to exist legally to this day, while the Federal Republic of Germany is illegal. A provisional Reich government exercised jurisdiction over the German Reich within the borders of 1937.
This one is false.
Reptiloids. Reptiloids are human-like intelligent beings derived from reptiles or reptilian-like aliens. They had infiltrated Earth and were part of a secret pyramid-like organizational structure.
This one is false.
Roswell incident. A UFO crashed in Roswell, New Mexico.
This one is true.
This crash actually took place, but for reasons of state security the whole thing was declared a state secret. All facts, reports, records and factual reports were put under lock and key and were largely lost over the decades. Black Volga. Between 1960 and 1980, inmates of a Black Volga car are said to have kidnapped and tortured children after they were asked the time.
This one is false.
Controversy over the seal of the United States. The seal refers to the Illuminati order.
This one is false.
Conspiracy to murder Robert F. Kennedy. The murder of U.S. Senator Robert F. Kennedy shows some inconsistencies regarding the alleged perpetrator Sirhan Sirhan.
This one is true.
There are indeed some inconsistencies concerning the person of Sirhan Sirhan as a result of negligent investigations, but it is undoubtedly established that he was the real perpetrator. Support for the Bolsheviks by the economy of the German Empire. The Sisson documents allegedly prove that the German Empire supported Russian revolutionaries financially.
This one is true.
For years the empire supported the Bolsheviks with money, weapons and logistics. Skull and Bones. The student fraternity not only deals with occultism and Satanism, but also has contacts to the CIA.
This one is false.
Slavic legend. Slavs in the east of present-day Germany were allegedly Teutons from the Middle Ages who decided against Christianization.
This one is false.
Sun Templar conspiracy. The radical organization of the Sun Templars was allegedly infiltrated by right-wing extremism.
This one is false.
Death of Lady Di. The accident that led to Diana's death was caused by the Secret Intelligence Service, MI6.
This one is false.
Bomb attacks on residential buildings in Russia. The originator of the bomb attacks is unclear and leaves room for speculation.
This one is false.
The bombings were the work of the Russian Secret Service FSB. Sinking of the RMS Titanic. Allegedly not the Titanic sank, but her sister ship Olympic.
This one is false.
Vril Society. The Vril Society had been able to revive National Socialism with supernatural methods.
This one is false.
Fired during the Waco siege. The FBI is responsible for a fire that ignited during the siege of a Branch Davidians plant. A two-digit number of people died in the fire, including children.
This one is false.
Tupac Shakur's death. Tupac Shakur is said to have been killed by the U.S. government, alternatively his death is only faked.
This one is false.
Zionist-occupied government. A right-wing extremist conspiracy theory states that all important government posts are occupied by Jews.
This one is false.
21st century.
9/11 conspiracy theories. The terrorist attacks on the 11th of September 2001 are alleged to have been either knowingly authorized or carried out by U.S. Secret Services themselves.
This one is false.
The U.S. President and U.S. intelligence services had only suspicions and vague indications of impending attacks in the U.S. by U.S. hostile Islamist terrorists, but no knowledge of how, when and where they would take place. Moscow conspiracy. An exercise called Project Moscow in 2000 dealt with the accident in which a plane crashed into the Pentagon. One of the contributors then worked for American Airlines.
This one is false.
Death of Jürgen Moellman. It is not proven whether the politician killed himself, but there were speculations about a murder.
This one is false.
Jürgen Moellman committed suicide. Conspiracy theories on the Madrid train bombings. Allegedly, the Basque terrorist organization ETA is behind the attacks.
This one is false.
The train attacks in the Spanish capital Madrid were attributed to Islamic terrorist acts. Death of Jörg Haider. The Austrian politician is said to have been murdered.
This one is false.
Coup attempt in Turkey 2016. One theory says that the Gulen movement and the deep state carried out the coup attempt.
This one is false.
Another theory is that the coup attempt was staged by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
This one is true.
These, Edward, are the facts that Florina, Injana and I were able to find in relation to the conspiracy theories listed for the periods from the 12th to the 21st century.
This is more than I expected, and besides, I was not aware of many of these conspiracy theories, nor of the fact that there have been those that date back to the 12th century. Only by a telephone reference I became aware of the fact of this list.
We never talked about old conspiracy theories either.
We didn't, no. And now, as I said, I only found the list because someone told me something about it.
We didn't know anything about it either and only became aware of it through you. Then Injana and Florina tried to clarify it, and finally I also participated in it. But now, dear friend, I have to say goodbye because I am being called to an important conference, but if it's possible for me, I'll be back here in 8 days from tomorrow. Goodbye, Edward.
Gladly, dear friend. Goodbye then, Pata.